Where are the aliens? That's one of the Fermi paradox question.
Oumuamua, which is an object that we detected in space that you believe could possibly have been extraterrestrial.
Elon Musk has made a startling revelation that has the scientific community terrified. Oumuamua, the mysterious object that entered our solar system in 2017, is now back. Only, this time, it is not alone. But what could this mean?
Oumuamua is less than a millimeter thin, but very wide like a sail, harnessing solar radiation to propel itself.
The experts are scrambling to make sense of it. Could it be just a one-in-a-million cosmic event? Or is there a more sinister power at play here? The answer is more disturbing than anyone could ever have imagined. An unexpected return. When Oumuamua was first spotted in October 2017, the experts had no idea what was coming. At the time, everyone was amazed at how we got to witness the first known interstellar visitor to our solar system in such detail.
How amazing is it that we humans have a word for something that literally flies between stars and so far?
But even then, we couldn't see the full picture. There was far more to that strange object than just rock and ice. After all, we never even saw it directly. Only data on monitors that showed some strange readings. Oumuamua did not emit any thermal signals. It had an odd shape and did not even have a tail like a comet.
It was the very first object that we had ever discovered that had originated outside the solar system.
No one was sure what this thing was exactly. Some said a comet. Others said it was a fragment of a destroyed planet. But the hints were right there.
This is something that we didn't realize before, and they also move without creating an exhaust or breaking the sound barrier.
Oumuamua's trajectory was oddly precise. It's too close for comfort, as if it were watching, noticing, and then leaving for an unknown destination. And the strange speed boost it got when it was at its closest to the sun should have been our biggest clue that things were about to go horribly wrong. Because just recently, Elon Musk has made a startling revelation. Oumuamua has been detected again.
Until now, because astronomers have just detected another something out there blazing into our solar system.
It's back into our solar system, and this time, it is not alone. But how is that even possible? Oumuamua was thought to be just a rock that shot out of our solar system at such a trajectory that it would never come anywhere near us. So how was it back? And more importantly, why had it returned? The answer is far more chilling than you can imagine. A fleet of rocks? The deep space tracking systems at SpaceX were the first to detect the sudden appearance of Oumuamua. It was at the very edge of our solar system, making an entry into the orbits.
This object has been traveling through interstellar space for hundreds of millions of years, billions of years.
But instead of there just being one signal, there were several. They were not moving around aimlessly either. The smaller rocks, as they were believed to be at the time, were moving with Oumuamua in a set formation. Was it a coincidence or a sign of intelligence? No one was sure at the time. But the return of the Oumuamua and its accompanying craft was a concerning development.
And in fact, it's not just rotating, it's tumbling. So it's not just it's going end over end, but twisting as it does so.
The slingshot effect that had accelerated Oumuamua out of our solar system during its first visit should have meant it would be impossible for it to return if it were a normal rock. But here it was, against all expectations. And this time, it had brought friends. Right from the get-go, experts started coming up with possible explanations.
With the spacecraft, you just reflect light off it and it's being pushed.
They said that the accompanying objects were fragments from Oumuamua's shattering, but their perfect formation discredited that theory rather quickly. Others said these objects were around Oumuamua even during the first visit, but we had failed to detect them. That didn't make sense either, since why would they be able to detect them this time unless they were new?
The object's path appears intelligently directed, and he suggests that we should have a risk assessment scale in place.
These objects were moving in sync with Oumuamua, so they had to be moving on a planned route at the very least. Elon presented a different theory. What if it were aliens? What if Oumuamua hadn't been just a rock as we thought, but a spaceship that had come to check our solar system for signs of life? And now that it had found out about our existence, it was back with a fleet of other spaceships. The public wanted to call this just a conspiracy theory, but the facts did not lie. The return of Oumuamua when it should have been impossible. The arrival of these new objects, their planned trajectory and coordinated movements. It was all only possible if Oumuamua and its companions were being controlled by an intelligence.
It was pushed away from the sun by some mysterious force.
All the evidence we had supported Musk's theory. Experts began considering it as a possibility. The most powerful telescopes we have were put on high alert to get a visual on Oumuamua as soon as possible. But what these telescopes showed was even more startling than what we were expecting. The data just wasn't making sense. Strange findings. Experts studied Oumuamua carefully using the most advanced telescopes, and they found that its surface was far smoother than should be possible.
A surface of a spaceship that was ripped apart, and you just see the surface being pushed by reflecting sunlight.
It was reflecting light as if made of a metal sheet instead of being a rocky surface, as they were expecting. The experts were sure they were looking at an object that was carefully engineered for interstellar travel, something built by an intelligence. And then there was the trajectory of the objects. It wasn't moving in an arc, as if about to get a gravity assist from our sun like the last time. Rather, the trajectory seemed planned. Oumuamua and its companions were on a route that would most likely put them very close to Earth.
This is the trajectory right here. It's kind of close to Mars, but not really, but it's still pretty far away from Earth.
Was this a coincidence? After all, during its first visit, Oumuamua had also traveled quite close to Earth. Was it back with a fleet to conquer us? Or was this a freak occurrence that our science just couldn't explain yet? Experts were baffled. But that's when the experts noticed something even more terrifying. Unlike its first visit, where it sped up and shot past our solar system, this time, Oumuamua was slowing down. If it were a natural comet, it was defying the laws of physics by slowing down.
But then something weird happened. As it was moving away from the sun, it was slowing down as you'd expect. But it wasn't slowing down fast enough.
It just wasn't possible. But Elon and other scientists knew what was happening. This was a sign that someone was controlling this fleet. It was slowing down because it had reached its destination, our solar system. It was a controlled entry, similar to how our space shuttles enter another planet's gravity field and slow down to prevent an impact. The experts were panicking. Everything they were seeing indicated a first contact. Were they about to meet aliens for the first time? Or was this just a coincidence? And if it was first contact, what were the intentions? It was fear mixed with curiosity. Even the skeptics were doubting their stance due to the synchronized movements of the objects.
I was disappointed. I would have been much more excited if we have found evidence for an alien civilization.
A look up close. While other major space agencies were too busy finding their way through bureaucracy, Elon decided to take action. He did not wait for governments or funding. Instead, he directed all the resources of SpaceX towards investigating Oumuamua and its companions. The Starship's missions that were ready for launch were repurposed. The shuttles were equipped with close-range observation probes. In a matter of days, Earth was ready to go and meet these new arrivals instead of being a sitting duck. The aim was to intercept the incoming fleet and conduct a deep scan in the process. But there was another hidden objective. Knowing that this could end up being our first contact with alien life, Elon also wanted to make sure that the probes sent on the mission would be able to facilitate communication. This was an unprecedented move in history.
When Oumuamua was discovered last October, it was tumbling past the sun at 196,000 miles per hour.
Never has a private space agency decided to do a mission like this before any government agency had a chance. Usually, they have to go through a lot of bureaucracy just to launch a satellite. But here was Elon circumventing all that. The one question on everyone's mind was, will Elon be the first person to make contact with aliens? Soon, they would have their answer. But in the meantime, world leaders were becoming more and more concerned. After all, if this was indeed an alien fleet on its way,
Oumuamua may be a fully operational probe sent intentionally to Earth vicinity by an alien civilization.
Who could say for sure they had peaceful intentions? They could be here to wage war, conquer our species, or perhaps to enslave us. The public was panicking, and so were the world leaders. They wanted to first find a way to defend Earth before establishing contact. Several military personnel even proposed going on the offensive, since they believed these visitors could pose an existential risk to humanity. But for Musk, that was thinking too far ahead, too early. These visitors could very well be here just to talk, maybe to help us advance our own civilization.
Said Oumuamua did not behave like an ordinary asteroid or give off gas like a comet.
We could only know by talking with them. And if these visitors were far more advanced than us, any offensive or even defensive measure may be misinterpreted as an act of war. The very act of trying to shore up our defenses could end up escalating a peaceful situation to a hostile one. Elon proposed that we should signal our presence to the fleet peacefully, so that there is no room for error. Communication is the best approach. But that was the issue. How do we talk? For all we knew, these aliens used a communication method we couldn't even detect, let alone respond to. Before that problem could be addressed, however, humanity was stunned by a new development. The first sighting. As the Oumuamua fleet drew closer to Earth, telescopes were able to get the first clear images. And what they showed was shocking. There were no rocks at all.
Oumuamua, as it stands, is a phenomenal discovery and a really important object.
Rather, the experts could make out smooth structures with intricate ridges and shiny surfaces. All the doubts went away. These were clearly alien ships, crafted with precision by an advanced civilization. It was impossible to determine what material these were made of, but the craftsmanship made it clear that whatever it was eons ahead of our own technology. The difference was night and day. Even the smartest minds studying the images could not figure out how these spaceships were propelling themselves through space. Humanity was faced with a sobering reality. In front of us was a civilization we had no hope of competing with.
Massive, fast-moving visitor to our solar system may have been a probe sent by an advanced alien civilization.
Musk's plans for peaceful communications were clearly the best option. Hostility was no longer a thought to be entertained. But then the question arose, how do we communicate? So far, the alien fleet hadn't emitted any signals. Either that was because they hadn't tried to communicate, or perhaps their method of communication was so advanced or drastically different that we couldn't even detect it. Think of it like humans trying to communicate with rabbits using radio signals. With this likely possibility in mind, Elon came up with an intuitive solution. A new way to communicate. Instead of relying on humans, Elon thought the critical task of communicating with our interstellar visitors should be left to AI.
It won't be long, though, before we can see what AI does around in the physical 3D world.
Alongside the most sophisticated sensors ever developed, the probe would be using AI to process and respond to any signals from the alien ships. There would be human oversight, of course, but by using this method, there would be very little chance of a mistake happening. To think that it wouldn't be a world leader but artificial intelligence making first contact was a rather fringe idea. But for Elon Musk, this was the perfect move forward. The AI language model would be able to adapt to whatever form of communication the aliens would use, whether that be electromagnetic waves, lights, mathematical concepts, or even numbers. The shuttle was equipped with the appropriate sensors needed to facilitate all these communication methods. It was the perfect ambassador for Earth. The world was on the precipice of a new era, and its beginning would happen with the launch of these probes. With hope in heart, SpaceX scientists launched the primary shuttle on an intercepting trajectory to Oumuamua's fleet.
Oumuamua, by contrast, is the first observed object to come from outside of our solar system.
And what it would discover was mind-boggling. A planned encounter. After launch, the probe called Voyager X came close to the alien fleet, and its broadcast to Earth revealed what the alien ships looked like up close. The thing we called Oumuamua was a marvel of engineering. Its unblemished surface shone with a brilliance no one could have imagined.
Oumuamua is less than a millimeter thin, but very wide like a sail, harnessing solar radiation to propel itself.
And its design was unlike anything humanity had ever seen. But the real shock came when an initial scan was conducted. The scans showed that the alien ship wasn't built from multiple components like ours. Instead, it was carved out of one single block of an unknown material. The experts couldn't believe their eyes. There were no seams, no construction lines. Not only that, but the surface appeared to be shimmering in the light from the sun. It was absorbing certain wavelengths of light while outputting some of its own.
These objects travel between Mach 5 and Mach 20. That's 20 times the speed of sound.
At first, the fleet had stayed still as the shuttle approached. But after an appropriate distance had been reached, one of the smaller ships in the fleet moved from its position. It approached the probe and came to rest just a little distance away, as if the fleet had sent out an ambassador of its own. And then, the communication began. The alien craft that had approached the probe emitted pulses of light, but it wasn't random. There was a structure to it, like it was trying to say something. And that's where Elon's decision to incorporate an AI paid off. The AI quickly analyzed the light pulses and recognized them to be a sequence of prime numbers. Perhaps the aliens were trying to get a measure of our technological advancement stage. The AI analyzed the data and sent out a sequence of its own.
How strong is this radio wave coming in and what's its frequency, right? And then it was printing out just like those numbers, right?
The alien craft responded, and a sort of communication began. This was a great sign. At the very least, it showed that the alien fleet was not going to begin hostility immediately. Rather, they were willing to talk. They may very well be here for peaceful purposes. Otherwise, they could have blown up the probe before it could reach them. Without even sharing a meaningful message, the aliens and humanity began to understand each other's intentions. The world leaders were trying to make heads and tails of what all this meant. Was humanity even ready for this? What should our first message be? And how will we defend ourselves if things turn sour? While the politicians were debating those matters, something extraordinary happened. The data from the probe showed that this fleet was not alone. It was communicating with someone. Signals were being sent to somewhere outside of our solar system. Were they communicating with other spacecraft? Or were they signaling home, sharing information on our species? No one could say for sure, but still, it was a scary thing to imagine.
Persona of an alien being and saying, here we are, we come in peace, that's certainly something I would hope.
We were so outclassed by just this one fleet in terms of technology. How advanced could their civilization be? There was no time to dwell on all that. There were more pressing matters at hand. As the AI continued its communication with the fleet, days turned to weeks. And during this time, one thing became clear. This was not going to be enough. The AI needed to be more advanced to be able to conduct actual communication. It needed to figure out a language that worked for both humans and the aliens. The experts began working day and night to make that possible. A new AI was being built that would run on the most advanced computer we had, quantum computers. A new development. So far, the alien fleet hadn't responded to any radio or electromagnetic signals. They only communicated with prime number strings outputted using light. Things stayed like that for a few days, and then something strange happened.
Space Watch astronomers say they've been receiving radio signals from a distant galaxy. Scientists.
One of the ships in the fleet detached from the rest and came close to Earth. It entered Earth's orbital plane, just behind the Moon's orbit, and from there, it did something amazing. The equipment was giving strange readings. Turns out, the space and time around the ship were acting strangely, as if the very presence of the spacecraft was causing ripples in the fabric of reality. Such a phenomenon had never been observed anywhere in the universe. But that wasn't even the strangest thing to happen, because moments later, the alien craft sent out its first message to us directly. It sent out a signal that shouldn't even be possible. It wasn't made up of light or radio signals. Rather, it was something no human had ever experienced before. The signal it sent out was more of a thought than a message itself, like transmitting a concept without saying a word. This new form of communication defied understanding, but understanding it was essential. Humanity needed to know what the spacecraft had come so far to say.
This transmission remains one of the most intriguing clues in the search for extraterrestrial intelligence.
The top minds at SpaceX, with a team of scientists and cryptographers, began working on deciphering it. Even the most advanced computers we have were failing at processing the signals. Some quantum computers simply gave errors once the signal was put in. Others got stuck in loops, or never stopped analyzing it. The few computers that did succeed produced patterns that resembled fractals. Was this another test? Or was this a message we couldn't understand yet? While this data was being processed, strange things started happening around the globe. The brightness of the stars began to shift ever so slightly. Telescopes detected anomalies in space around Earth, and atmospheric anomalies were occurring everywhere. It didn't take long for experts to realize what was happening. All this was a part of the messages, because instead of sending out a signal, the alien craft had emitted a phenomenon. They hadn't seen the full picture just yet, but now the pieces of the puzzle were falling into place. Realizing how far advanced the alien technology was, Elon and his fellow scientists began formulating a response. Elon decided to respond to the alien craft's message with a message of our own. But instead of words or light signals, he would send out something else entirely. A neural signal that would represent pure cognition. Instead of relying on conventional communication means, this method would deliver our thoughts and understanding directly to whoever was controlling the alien craft.
Scientists often assume that whatever we see must represent something we already know.
It was as similar as humanity could get to the initial message from the unexpected visitor. But how can such a message be made? That's where the new AI came in. Using Neuralink, the AI read and processed the brain activity of volunteers, and from those thoughts, a message was formulated. And once this transmission was formulated, it was sent over to the alien craft. Everyone at SpaceX held their breath, hoping against hope that the aliens would understand this message. And to their surprise, something happened. The signal the alien craft had been sending constantly suddenly changed. It became similar to the projected signal from Earth. The alien craft had adjusted its own transmission so that it was in line with the technology and parameters we were using. The message the ship had been transmitting could finally be deciphered under these new parameters. The alien craft had been saying the same thing all this time. You are not alone. This statement was both hopeful and ominous at the same time. Little did humanity know that this message would entail a lot of strange things happening at the same time. Soon after receiving the signal, the experts noticed something strange at the border of our solar system. Something was approaching, something big, far larger than Oumuamua and its fleet. Since it was still so far away, the experts could not get a good look even with the strongest telescopes. All they had were signal readings, and it painted a clear image. This massive structure approaching our solar system was similar to Oumuamua and its companion ships. So were the earlier visitors just probes? A small detachment of a bigger whole sent out to explore and make first contact with any advanced civilizations they find? It seemed like it. While the experts were marveling at this new arrival and its gigantic size, something far stranger was happening closer to home. You see, soon after the alien craft in Earth's orbit started communicating with humanity, an anomaly was detected on the moon's surface. The moon is alive. As the experts were busy communicating with the alien visitor, they detected another signal, which was not coming from deep space, but this one was coming from our moon. Unbeknownst to humanity, the moon had been hiding a secret. There was something lying dormant inside that had been activated in the presence of the alien craft. And now it was communicating too. This raised a lot of questions. Could it be that this object was placed here as an observer, which was activated once humanity reached a certain threshold of technological advancement? Was it the reason why Oumuamua had come to our solar system in the first place? It was clear that this mystery object had links to the alien craft. Experts just couldn't figure out in what way. Who had placed this structure on the moon in the first place? And how long had it been there? There were no answers to these questions, only mystery and intrigue. Humanity was faced with a lot of challenges in a matter of weeks. There was the giant object approaching our solar system, the alien fleet already in our solar system, and now this strange thing on the moon. The sensitive scanning devices that observed the moon showed that the moon was experiencing a higher number of seismic shocks across its surface. Could there be something alive under there? Not a probe or a computer, but a biological creature of an unexplainably large size. Elon wanted to find out. He wanted to go to the moon and check out this strange object or thing that had reared its head all of a sudden. A space shuttle was prepared, and the team was ready to head out. But at this moment, the preparations were cut short by a horrifying new revelation. The alien craft that had been communicating continuously with the object on the moon suddenly sent a message to Earth. It said, "We are coming." Was it a threat? Or was it just a statement with no hostile undertones? When talking to an alien craft, no one could say for sure. All we knew was that something large was already approaching our solar system. But what if it was just one of the many on their way? Was our solar system being invaded? And if it was, for what reason? Certainly, we aren't advanced enough for an alien civilization like this one to consider us a threat. What do you think should be humanity's next steps? Let me know in the comments down below. I would love to read them all. And while you are at it, be sure to like the video, share it, and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, goodbye and stay curious.